Dr. Han Sujai stood at the large window of the Earth Diplomatic Center, watching the sunset over Seoul. The orange light reflected off the tall buildings, making them shine like gold. But she wasn't thinking about the beautiful view. Her mind was on the message she had received an hour ago. The collective, as always, had said no. She picked up her tablet and read the message again. The words were polite but cold. The Collective Council has reviewed Earth's request for expansion rights in the Proxima Centauri system. After careful consideration, we must deny this request. Humans have not yet reached the required level of civilization advancement. Sujai put the tablet down harder than she meant to. This was the 57th time in 10 years that the collective had denied a human request. She had been Earth's chief diplomat to the alien civilizations for 15 years, and nothing had changed. The collective was a group of 12 advanced alien species. They controlled most of the known galaxy and decided which civilizations could join them. Humanity had discovered them 200 years ago, in 1957, when they first contacted Earth. Since then, humans had tried everything to prove they deserved equal treatment. Suji's office computer beeped. "Dr. Han," her assistant's voice came through. "Admiral Ko is here to see you." "Send him in," she said, turning away from the window. Admiral Ko Ta-1 walked in. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been fighting for humanity's rights in space for longer than Sujai had been alive. "You saw the message?" he asked. Suji nodded. "Yes." Another no. "There's more," Ko said. His voice was heavy. "We lost contact with the Europa research station 3 hours ago." Suji felt her heart stop. "What? That's impossible. My brother is stationed there." Ko pulled out his own tablet and showed her a video. The Europa research station, a peaceful scientific base near Jupiter's moon, was supposed to be studying ocean life under the ice. The video showed the station floating normally, then 3 collective ships appearing nearby. There was a flash of light. And then, nothing. The station was gone. "They're saying we violated their space," Ko explained. "But Europa isn't in their territory. We checked all the maps they gave us. We followed all their rules." Sujai sat down hard in her chair. Her brother, Han Minho, had been the lead scientist at the station. He had been studying possible life forms in Europa's ocean. Now he was gone, along with 50 other scientists and researchers. "How many?" she asked quietly. 51 people, Ko answered. "All civilians, all scientists." Sujai felt something change inside her. For 15 years, she had believed in diplomacy. She had told everyone that patience and words would work. She had defended the collective even when others said they were being unfair. "They're not going to apologize, are they?" she asked. Ko shook his head. "They already sent a message. They say it was our fault for putting a station in restricted space." Sujai stood up and walked to her desk. She opened a drawer and took out a small box. Inside was a piece medal the collective had given her 5 years ago for her diplomatic efforts. She had been so proud of it then. "Get me a meeting with the Defense Council," she said, her voice different now. "It's time we tried something new." "What are you thinking?" Ko asked. "For 200 years, we've tried to talk to them. We've been patient. We've followed their rules. We've begged for respect." She put the medal back in the drawer. "They think we're weak because we keep trying to solve everything with words. Maybe it's time we showed them we know other languages too." Ko looked at her carefully. "You're talking about military action. You've always been against that." "I was wrong," Suji said. "I thought if we were peaceful enough, patient enough, they would respect us. But look what happened. They killed 51 innocent people and blamed us for it. They treat us like children who need to be controlled." She walked back to the window. The sun had set now, and the city lights were coming on. "We need to stop asking for permission to exist in space. We need to show them that humans aren't going to beg anymore." Ko was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "I'll set up the meeting. But you should know, Some of us have been preparing for this day. We knew it might come. Suji turned to him, surprised. What do you mean? Come with me, he said. There's something you need to see. They took Ko's private shuttle to a location in the Korean mountains. Inside a hidden base, Sujai saw something that made her eyes wide. Designs for new ships, weapons she had never seen before, and technology that looked more advanced than anything the collective had shown them. How? She asked, looking at the plans. We've been studying their technology every time they visit Earth, Ko explained. They think we're too primitive to understand it, but human scientists are good at figuring things out. We've been developing our own versions, making them better. We just kept it quiet. Sujai looked at a large map of the galaxy on the wall. It showed all the collective's important bases and stations. They never thought we'd fight back, she said softly. That's why they're so careless about showing us their technology. They think we'll always just accept whatever they decide. Exactly, Ko said. They think they're teaching primitive humans about space. But really, they've been teaching us how to fight them. Suji thought about her brother and the other scientists who died at Europa Station. She thought about 200 years of being treated like children. She thought about all the times the collective had said no to reasonable requests. How long would it take to get ready? She asked. Ko smiled. It wasn't a happy smile, but a determined one. We've been getting ready for decades. We just needed someone like you, someone they trust, to help us know when it's time. Sujai looked at the plans again. The collective thought humans were primitive because they spent so much time arguing among themselves, because they hadn't existed as long as other species, because they were still learning about space. But the collective had forgotten something important. Humans learned fast, and they learned best when someone told them they couldn't do something. Call the meeting, Suji said firmly. It's time humanity stopped using only words. As she left the secret base that night, Sujai looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, the collective thought they had taught humanity another lesson about staying in their place. They didn't know they had just taught humanity something very different. Sometimes the best way to get respect isn't to ask for it. The next morning, Suji would start the biggest change in human history. But tonight, she had one more thing to do. She went home and took out an old photo of her and her brother at his graduation. They're going to remember your name, Minho, she whispered. They're going to remember all of us. The time for only words was over. Now, humanity would teach the galaxy a new lesson. Never mistake patience for weakness. Lieutenant Park G1 sat in the hidden command center deep inside the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. 5 years had passed since the Europa Station incident. 5 years since humanity had started its secret work. He looked at the screens in front of him, watching hundreds of small dots moving through space. Each dot was a human ship, practicing battle formations where the collective sensors couldn't see them. Status report, came Admiral Kim Doohan's voice from behind him. Jai-Won turned in his chair. The Admiral had more gray hair now than 5 years ago, but his eyes were sharp and focused. The new stealth systems are working perfectly, sir. The collective's patrol ship passed through Sector 7 without noticing our fleet. Doohan smiled. Show me the training results. Jai-Won pulled up the data from the day's exercises. We've been studying how the collective fights. They haven't changed their battle strategies in over 1,000 years. They don't think they need to. They've always been the strongest. He pointed to a simulation on the screen. But that makes them predictable. The screen showed a replay of the morning's practice battle. The human ships moved in ways that would seem crazy to the collective, hiding behind asteroids, splitting up into smaller groups, using unusual attack angles. It wasn't the proper, organized way that space battles were supposed to work, according to the collective's ancient books. How many ships do we have now? Doohan asked. 2,000 combat-ready vessels hidden across the solar system, Jai-Won answered. All of them using the new quantum stealth technology. The collective can't detect them because they're looking for the kind of energy signatures their ships make. Ours work differently. Duhan nodded, looking pleased. And the weapons? Jai-1 pressed another button. A different screen lit up, showing the new weapon systems. We copied their basic designs but made them better. The collective thinks we can't understand their technology, so they don't hide it very well when they visit Earth. Our scientists studied everything they showed us and found ways to improve it. Because they think we're primitive, Duhan said quietly. They never thought we could take their technology and make it better. Jai-1 stood up and walked to a larger screen on the wall. It showed the positions of all known collective bases and ships in nearby space. They still think we're busy arguing among ourselves about whether to accept their latest restrictions. They don't know we've been preparing. A light flashed on Jai-1's console. Incoming message from Earth, sir. Dr. Han Suji wants to speak with you. Duhan went to the communication screen. Suji's face appeared. She looked tired but determined. Admiral, the collective just left another meeting. They're planning to put up a barrier around our solar system. They say it's to protect us from making mistakes in space. They want to trap us in our own solar system, Duhan said, his voice hard. Yes, they're going to start building the barrier in 3 months. Sujai leaned closer to the screen. How ready are we? Duhan looked at Jai-1, who nodded. We're ready now. The fleet is trained. The weapons work. The stealth systems are perfect. Then it's time, Suji said. They announced the barrier plan to the whole galaxy. Every civilization out there is watching to see what we'll do. They all expect us to accept it, like we've accepted everything else. Jai-1 spoke up. We won't have a better chance than this, sir. They think we're weak. They think we're afraid. Their guard is down. Duhan was quiet for a moment. Then he straightened his uniform. Lieutenant Park, send the signal to all fleet commanders. Operation Thunderclap begins in 24 hours. Jai-1 felt his heart beat faster as he sent the coded message to every hidden human ship in the solar system. For 5 years, they had trained for this. For 5 years, they had listened to the collective tell them what they couldn't do, where they couldn't go, how they had to behave. Dr. Han, Duhan said to the screen, make sure you're at tomorrow's collective meeting. I want you to see their faces when they realize what's happening. Suji nodded. I'll be there. And Admiral, make sure they remember this. After the screen went dark, Jai-1 looked at his commander. Sir, the collective has better ships than us. They have more experience. They've won every war they've ever fought. Duhan smiled. Yes, but they've never fought humans before. They think war is about having the biggest ships and the most guns. They think it's about following the proper rules of battle that they wrote thousands of years ago. He walked to the big screen showing the galaxy map. But we're going to show them something new. We're going to show them that humans don't fight the way their books say we should. We adapt. We change. We do the unexpected. Jai-1 thought about all the training exercises they had run. The collected ships always moved in perfect formation. They always attacked in the same patterns. They were powerful, but they were predictable. Human ships had learned to dance around them, to strike from strange angles, to fight in ways that the collective's ancient battle books never mentioned. Send the final confirmation to all ships, Duhan ordered. Tomorrow, we show the galaxy that humanity is done being quiet. As Jai-1 sent the messages, he looked at the galaxy map again. Somewhere out there, the collective was probably writing another list of rules about how primitive humans should behave. They didn't know that humans were about to write some new rules of their own. In her office on Earth, Sujia prepared for her last diplomatic meeting. Tomorrow, she would watch the collective learn a hard lesson. Never assume that silence means acceptance. Never think that patience means weakness. And never, ever tell humanity that they can't do something. Because humans had a special talent. They were very, very good at proving people wrong. The next 24 hours would change the galaxy forever. And somewhere, Sujoy thought. Her brother would be proud. The collective had taken his life thinking there would be no consequences. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the hidden command center, Jai-1 watched the countdown begin. In 24 hours, the silent preparation would end, and the galaxy would learn why it was a mistake to underestimate humanity. Captain Lee Min-seo stood on the bridge of the stealth carrier Silent Dawn. Her ship was hiding in the dark space behind Europa, the same moon where the collective had destroyed the human research station 5 years ago. She thought this was fitting. The collective had chosen this place to show their power. Now humans would use it to show theirs. "All ships report ready, Captain," her first officer said quietly. Min-seo looked at the main screen. It showed 7 human fleets hidden across the galaxy, each one waiting near an important collective base. The collective didn't know the ships were there. They couldn't see them. They were too busy preparing for their grand announcement about the barrier they would build around Earth's solar system. "Time check," Min-seo ordered. 3 minutes until the collective council meeting begins, the communications officer reported. "Dr. Han Sujai is in position." Min-seo nodded. She remembered the day the Europa station was destroyed. She had been a junior officer then, watching helplessly as the collective ships attacked without warning. That day had changed everything. Now she commanded humanity's most advanced warship, leading the fleet that would strike the first blow. In the collective's main meeting hall, Sujai sat quietly among the alien representatives. The room was large and grand, with tall crystal windows showing the stars outside. The collective leaders sat in their high chairs, looking down at everyone else. They always had to be higher than others. It was one of their many rules. "We gather today," the collective's high speaker began, "to announce a new protection measure for our primitive friends from Earth. To prevent them from causing problems in space, we will construct a barrier around their solar system." Suja checked her watch. 1 minute left. "This barrier will help humans understand their place in the galaxy," the high speaker continued. "They are not ready for the responsibility of space travel. We must guide them, like parents guide children." Sujai almost smiled. The collective was so sure of themselves, so certain of their power, that they didn't even post guards in their meeting hall. Why would they need guards? No one would dare attack the mighty collective. "The barrier construction will begin tomorrow," the high speaker announced proudly. "Earth's representatives are here to witness our generosity in protecting them." Suji's watch beeped quietly. It was time. On the silent dawn, Min-seo gave the order. "All ships, execute Operation Thunderclap. Begin." Across the galaxy, 7 human fleets appeared from nowhere. The collective sensors didn't see them coming. Their defensive systems didn't activate. Their mighty warships sat idle in their ports, unprepared. The human ships struck with perfect coordination. They had trained for 5 years for this moment, and it showed. They didn't use the standard attack formations that the collective expected. Instead, they came from strange angles, used asteroids and moons for cover, and struck in ways that confused the collective's ancient battle computers. In the meeting hall, the high speaker was still talking when the first explosions lit up the sky outside the crystal windows. The collective leaders jumped from their chairs in shock as their supposedly impenetrable defense stations began exploding one after another. "What is happening?" the high speaker demanded. "How is this possible?" Sujai stood up slowly. All eyes turned to her. "This," she said clearly, "is humanity's response to your barrier plan." On the silent dawn, Min-seo watched as her fleet disabled the collective's biggest shipyard. The alien ships were finally starting to react, but they were too slow. They tried to form their traditional battle lines, just as Lieutenant Park had predicted. But human ships didn't fight in straight lines. They moved like dancers, like swarms of angry bees, striking from every direction at once. "Status report," Min-seo ordered. "All 7 targets are under attack," her tactical officer reported. "The collective's defense systems are failing. They can't track our ships. Their targeting computers can't predict our movement patterns. Min-seo allowed herself a small smile. The collective had spent thousands of years perfecting their way of war. They thought they knew everything about space combat, but they had forgotten something important. Sometimes the best way to win a fight was to change the rules. In the meeting hall, chaos had erupted. The collective leaders were shouting, demanding explanations, trying to contact their forces. Sujai stood calmly in the middle of it all, watching through the windows as humanity proved that they weren't primitive after all. "Stop this at once," the high speaker demanded, turning to Sujai. "This is not the proper way to conduct warfare." "We studied your books about proper warfare," Sujai replied calmly. "We learned all your rules. Then we decided to write our own." On her ship, Min-seo received a new message. The collective's primary defense network was down. Their mighty warships were either disabled or in chaos. In just 30 minutes, humanity had done what no other civilization had managed in 10,000 years. They had broken the collective's power. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender signals from 3 collective bases." Min-seo nodded. "Tell them we accept their surrender. And remind them, this is just the beginning." The battle was almost over now. The collective's perfect formations had fallen apart. Their unbeatable weapons had been beaten. Their impenetrable defenses had been penetrated. All their ancient wisdom about warfare had failed against human creativity and adaptability. In the meeting hall, Sujai walked up to the high speaker's platform. The alien leader looked at her with a mixture of shock and fear. "How?" he asked. "How did you hide such a fleet? How did you develop such weapons?" "You showed us everything," Sujai explained. "Every time you visited Earth, every time you demonstrated your technology, every time you lectured us about how superior you were, you thought we were too primitive to understand. You never realized we were learning, adapting, improving." She looked out at the disabled collective ships floating in space. "You taught us all about proper warfare, about the right way to fight. But humans don't always follow the rules. Sometimes we make new ones." On the silent dawn, Min-seo received the final confirmation. All 7 targets had been secured. The collective's military backbone was broken. Their leaders were trapped in their own meeting hall, watching as their power crumbled. "Send the message to all collective worlds," Min-seo ordered. "Tell them, humanity is ready to talk about peace, but this time, we'll talk as equals." The day that humanity decided words were not enough had come to an end. The galaxy would never be the same. The collective had learned a harsh lesson. Never mistake patience for weakness, never confuse silence for acceptance, and never, ever tell humanity that something is impossible. Because humans had a special talent for doing impossible things. 1 month had passed since Operation Thunderclap. Dr. Han Sujai stood in front of the mirror in her quarters on the diplomatic ship New Dawn, adjusting her formal uniform. Today, she would address the Collective Council again. But this time, everything was different. Admiral Kim Do-han knocked on her door. "It's time," he said as he entered. He looked tired but proud. The past month had been busy, with humanity securing their position and establishing new agreements across the galaxy. "How are the negotiations going?" Sujai asked as they walked toward the council chamber. "Better than expected," Do-han replied. "The smaller civilizations are eager to work with us now. They'd been waiting for someone to stand up to the collective for thousands of years." They reached the grand doors of the council chamber. Through the windows, Sujai could see that things had changed inside. The collective leaders no longer sat on high platforms. Now everyone sat at the same level, around a circular table. Humanity had insisted on this change. Lieutenant Park Ji-won met them at the door. He had been promoted after the battle, now serving as Earth's chief military advisor. "Captain Lee sends her regards," he said. "The Silent Dawn is patrolling the border of the new neutral zone." Sujai nodded. The neutral zone had been humanity's first demand, a space where all civilizations could travel and trade freely. without the collective's permission. The collective had agreed quickly. They had learned that saying no to humans was not wise. Inside the chamber, representatives from all spacefaring civilizations waited. Sujay saw the high speaker of the collective, sitting quietly in his new regular chair. He looked smaller now, less impressive without his high platform. "Dr. Han," he said politely as she entered, "we are ready to begin." Suji took her place at the table. She looked around the room, remembering how different it had been just a month ago. The crystal windows still showed the stars outside, but now some of those stars had human ships guarding them. 1 month ago, Suja began, her voice clear and strong. Humanity proved that we are ready for our place in the galaxy. We didn't want to prove it with weapons. We tried for 200 years to prove it with words. The room was completely silent. Even the smallest movements had stopped. The collective taught us many things over those 200 years, she continued. You taught us about your technology, thinking we couldn't understand it. You taught us about your battle strategies, thinking we couldn't use them. You taught us about your rules, thinking we would always follow them. She stood up, walking slowly around the table as she spoke. But you forgot to learn about us. You forgot to ask who we were, what we could do. You were so busy teaching that you forgot to learn. The high speaker shifted uncomfortably in his chair. We have learned our lesson, Dr. Han. Humanity has proved its strength. No, Suji said firmly. That's not the lesson at all. This isn't about strength. It's about respect. It's about understanding that different doesn't mean primitive. It's about remembering that age doesn't always mean wisdom. She pressed a button on the table, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed Earth, surrounded by its new defense network. But next to it was something else. Plans for a new space station. This, Suju explained, is the Future Gate Project. A station where all civilizations can meet, trade, and learn from each other as equals. Not as teachers and students, not as advanced and primitive, but as equals. The room stirred with interest. Even the collective representatives leaned forward to look at the plans. Humanity's first act as a full member of the galactic community, Suji continued, will be to build this station. And we invite everyone to help us build it, including the collective. The high speaker looked surprised. You would work with us, after everything. Yes, Suji said simply, because that's another thing you never learned about humans. We don't hold grudges forever. We remember, yes, but we also move forward. Admiral Duhan stepped forward. The station will be defended by ships from all civilizations. Its laws will be written by all civilizations. Its benefits will be shared by all civilizations. Lieutenant Park added, and its technology will combine the best from everyone. The collective's experience, humanity's innovation, and the unique skills of every other species. Sujai returned to her seat. The day humanity decided words were not enough changed the galaxy. But today we return to words, not as beggars asking for permission, but as equals offering partnership. She looked at the high speaker. The choice is yours. Will the collective join us in building something new, or will you cling to your old ways alone? The high speaker was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up. For 10,000 years, the collective has guided the galaxy. We thought this made us wise. But true wisdom, as humanity has taught us, is knowing when to change. He walked to the hologram and studied it. The collective will join this project. We will learn to be partners instead of rulers. Suji felt a weight lift from her shoulders. This was what she had hoped for, not just victory, but change. Real change. As the meeting continued, with representatives from all civilizations offering their support and ideas, Suji thought about her brother. The research station at Europa was gone, but its spirit would live on in the Future Gate, a place of learning, discovery, and cooperation. Later that day, Sujai stood with Duhan and Park on the observation deck, watching ships from different civilizations already beginning to gather for the Future Gate project. Do you think it will work? Park asked. Can everyone really work together as equals? Sujai smiled. It won't be easy. Change never is. But humans are good at doing difficult things. Duhan nodded. And if anyone forgets the lessons of the past month, they can look up humanity's teaching methods in the historical records. They watched as a collective ship and a human ship worked together to map out the station's location. Just 1 month ago, those ships would have been enemies. Now they were partners. The galaxy had changed forever. The day humanity decided words were not enough had led to something new. A future where words meant more because they were backed by strength, where respect was earned not demanded, and where different didn't mean primitive. And somewhere out there, Suji knew her brother would be proud. The stars belonged to everyone now, just as they always should have.